To those of you who have been listening to the Think Wildlife podcast since the start, you may remember an episode about the role of bioacoustics in tropical conservation with rainforest connection. Today, we revisit the topic of bioacoustics, but this time closer to home in India. Joining me today is Dr. Vijay Ramesh, one of the co founders of Project Dhvani. Vijay, along with his two other co founders, Dr. Pooja Choksi and Dr. Sarika Khanwikar, established this project during their PhD at Columbia University to understand how biodiversity varies across human dominated land cover types in central India using sounds. Over the years, the project has expanded to the tropical Western Ghats to study habitat restoration and degradation. Tune into what is a highly intriguing project.
So, welcome, Vijay, to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
Oh, thanks, Anish. Good to be here.
What is the idea behind Project Dhvani?
So, Project Dhvani started in 2018 as a research collaborative, and our mission was that we want to use a conservation technology, primarily acoustics, bioacoustic monitoring, as a way to essentially monitor wildlife, especially across human modified landscapes in India. So the three of us were PhD students then at Columbia University, and we wanted to basically use this, at that time, I would say, a more novel technology to essentially understand how we can monitor different taxa. So Pooja was working on birds, I was working on birds, and Sarika started working on birds as well. And we started working in central India and I would say Western Ghats. And right now, the work over the last 5 to 6 years has progressed, where we have established ourselves more as not just as a research collaborative, but as a network of professionals. And that's what we want to do. We want to make bioacoustic monitoring as an accessible tool for everyone to use and to provide all the resources that come along with it.
Can you elaborate how exactly can bioacoustics be used to study land cover and forest management?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think both Pooja's and my work so far has primarily been focused on how changes in land cover or changes in habitat are impacting biodiversity. And for both of our work, what we wanted to look at was how does restoration, essentially ecological restoration, impact bird species? And both in the Western Ghats and Central India, we started placing audio recorders to look at restored habitats and non-restored habitats to understand differences in, what are the birds that are coming to these two habitats. And essentially what we found was that there's higher levels of bird diversity or, higher number of bird species that are being recorded in restored habitats compared to non-restored habitats. And so it's a positive result that we're finding, essentially showing that ecological restoration has a positive impact on biodiversity. So that's one example that comes to mind. But we are currently continuing to move beyond birds alone, move beyond birds to look at, the overall what we call the soundscape. So all vocalizing biodiversity.
A few years ago, you had published a couple of papers on how accurate and generalizable is bioacoustics to monitor biodiversity. Could you elaborate a bit on the study?
Yeah, sure. To clarify, the study was not led by me, but it was led by a collaborator, Sarab Sethi. And our goal here was to understand if there is something broadly generalizable across soundscapes from different parts of the world. Are there certain features that we can extract from these, again, as I mentioned, soundscapes that are similar from, say, if you go from Malaysia to the Western Ghats to temperate latitudes like North America? Are there features that we can extract and that's very similar to one another? But what we're basically finding is that we can't necessarily generalize biodiversity in that sense, especially using features from a soundscape. And it's much more complicated, and we probably need to focus on species-specific results to better understand what's happening within each geography. So it was an interesting study which gave us some insights to tell us that there may be more gained from looking at specific geographies alone.
What do you think are some key developments and areas of improvement in the usage of bioacoustics for conservation?
I would say that bioacoustics is really well. It's not a new field in a sense, because people have been using acoustics as a measure to. I mean, people started using acoustics to basically record whatever was happening around them, to record the sounds around them. But in the last 10 years, I think the technology has really advanced quite a bit. And so that's really helped people to start using this particular technology as a tool to monitor wildlife. But I would say, especially over the last 10 to 15 years, some of the biggest advancements, definitely, as I mentioned, technology. We're having cheaper and more accessible hardware. That being said, I would say that a lot of the hardware is still being produced mostly in the global north. And so I think there are efforts to try to push for hardware development in the global south as well, so that it's much more accessible. Second being, I think, especially the push for AI. So I think artificial intelligence has definitely innovated the way we're using bioacoustics to engage with nature in general. The two big examples that come to mind are from a engagement perspective and from a research perspective. One being Merlin. Merlin is a platform that's produced by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So you basically have an app on your phone and you just hit a button, and it's basically like Shazam for birds. So it can basically tell you all the birds that are calling near you. And I think that's a very novel way with which we can actually engage a lot more people with wildlife and biodiversity in general. The other example from an AI perspective is BirdNet. BirdNet's also an algorithm and a product that's developed in collaboration with researchers in Germany and the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And here, especially, we can use these open access, open source algorithms to carry out automated detection of different species. And that's really been helping us from a conservation perspective. So we're able to apply that for endangered species, we're able to apply that for different use cases. And so I think that's really pushing the conservation frontier forward. Apart from that, I think bioacoustics has really caught on more broadly from a public engagement perspective as well. People are really interested in, okay, what are the sounds around me? How can I, learn more about it? And I think in that sense, the other big sort of advancement in our field has been, I would say, interest from other disciplines. So we're having more interdisciplinary collaboration so that we can work more holistically on biodiversity conservation. At least from my perspective, I think those are the three big pushes that I'm seeing right now.
And how extensively is acoustics used in India for research and conservation?
I think it's really caught on, especially again in the last 10 years. People have been using it from elephant monitoring to, of course, bird monitoring. And people have been studying insect species for a couple of decades now, especially Dr. Rohini Balakrishnan at the Indian Institute of Science. She's been pioneering some insect acoustic work for a few decades now. There's been some excellent work on bird species led by Anand Krishnan and V.V. Robin. But there's also been quite a bit of work now on the broader soundscape as well. People are starting to record how soundscapes are varying from one habitat to another. With that being said, the caveat here is that there's a lot of work on in the terrestrial realm in India, but little work being done in the marine side. So I think there's a lot more to be done in the marine world. But it's definitely caught on in the last 10 years in terms of using acoustics as a tool.
What do you think is a future direction for Project Dhvani?
So we have a couple of new and ongoing research projects, I would say, but I'm happy to touch upon that in a bit. But apart from the research direction, I think one of our big pushes in the coming year is to work towards a broader network or a network of professionals so that we can basically collaboratively work with other people in India who are doing bioacoustic work. And so we want to basically create like a broader forum where we can engage with other people who are interested in bioacoustics, or this can be academics, this can be, civil society organizations, or professionals from governmental institutions. And we basically want to be a conduit to essentially try to help make bioacoustics more accessible for everyone in India as a technology or as a tool. So that's definitely one of the big pushes for us in the coming year. Apart from that, we have at least I would say, 3 to 5 different research projects that are happening that are either student led or are led by both or are led by us at Project Dhvani. Pooja has been leading a couple of projects in central India, focusing again on broadly on restoration and how soundscapes are changing over time, and of course on bird species. I have a couple of projects in the Western Ghats where we're asking varying questions from fundamental research to more applied work. For example, one of our projects is asking how do soundscapes vary across coffee farms of different farming practices. So what are this what is the biodiversity like in coffee farms that have traditional practices versus coffee farms that have organic practices? So we feel like using using acoustics as a tool to essentially identify these differences can truly help change the way we think about management of these coffee farms, keeping biodiversity in mind.
And what have been some of the most prominent challenges you have faced at Project Dhvani?
I think like most of the organizations, well, given that we are a research collaborative, one of the big obstacles definitely has been funding for research or for biodiversity work. So that's definitely been a big challenge. Other than that, I think right now for us, it's given that bioacoustics has really caught on, we are trying to find better ways in which, as I mentioned before, trying to find ways in which we can bring a broader community together. And I think that's of essence at this point, to have more people come together to work collaboratively so that we can share our research results with policymakers, but also between academics so that can help advance our field a little more. And I think starting that off has taken some time, but we are very excited that we'll soon kick that off later this year. Apart from that, I think the other obstacles would be in terms of carrying our day-to-day work as well, in terms of understanding the needs of different researchers, in terms of understanding how much data needs to be collected, what our protocols for research have to be. So all of that has taken time to develop. So there have been challenges to each of them. But I think we are at a place right now where we have like a very good pipeline working for us in terms of carrying out acoustic monitoring across geographies in India.
And how can individuals contribute to Project Dhvani?
I think for us, there are 2 ways. One, if you are really interested in working on anything to do with bioacoustics, definitely reach out to us. We have multiple research projects going on. We would be more than happy to have people work with us, collaborate with us, partner with us. The other, definitely, I think, is working more with private sector individuals who are interested in contributing to biodiversity conservation and helping push this frontier of bioacoustics forward for the sake of monitoring biodiversity. So we're definitely interested in working with more, private sector individuals who are interested in, say, I wouldn't necessarily say providing funding for conservation, but rather, helping us think more broader about how we can expand this across the entire Indian subcontinent. So to do that, I think we definitely need more people to help streamline our vision, maybe help even think of different ideas or perspectives that we haven't thought of. Yeah.
So that was the final question I had for you today. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thanks, Anish. Yeah, it's glad to be here.
If you made it till the end of this podcast, feel free to leave your thoughts on the topic and do not forget to share and subscribe. Before we end the podcast, I would like to share another list of conservation books which I highly recommend. This time it is on the topic of rewilding and ecological restoration. The first is a seminal book called Rewilding, the radical new science of ecological recovery by Glenn Blight and Paul Chipson, which covers the restoration of ecological processes and ecosystem functioning by the reintroduction of species, especially megaherbivores. A less technical and science-heavy book is Rewilding Africa, the restoration of wilderness on a war-ravaged continent, which explores conservation across various heavily militarized landscapes. And the final book is Wilder, How Rewilding is Transforming Conservation and Changing the World. This covers the rewilding of various charismatic species ranging from pumas in the US to the Arabian oryx in the Middle East and giant tortoise. And with that, I would like to end this episode of the Think Wildlife podcast. See you next Monday.